Well, good morning, everyone. Great to see you. Love that you're here today. If this is your first time, there isn't a better week to be able to start attending because we are starting this series. And this is also what we call our vision series, where we'll be kind of setting out what we hope to see happen and achieve through the life of the Forge. So, you kind of get a little bit of a backstage pass into some of the things that are happening here within the life of the church. Let me ask you a question to start with. Have you ever found yourself in a place where you just don't fit, where you don't feel that you belong? Has anyone ever experienced that? Yeah, okay, probably all of us will have done at some point. I have. It was my 18th birthday, and 18th birthday should be a celebration, but it certainly wasn't for me because that was the day that I had to travel down to just beyond Chelmsford to Writtle, where there was an agricultural college that I was going to start attending. And so I packed up, got into my little Mini, and I made my way down the A12. And all the way I was going down there saying, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? Anyway, I arrived there, and I was shown to the room. I was in halls, and so I went into my room, and I started to unpack, and there was a knock at the door. And I thought, oh, that's nice. So I opened up the door, and these four big farmer blokes came, grabbed hold of me, carted me down the corridor into the bathroom, and chucked me in a cold bath. So I kind of climbed out of that, soaking wet, making my way back to my bedroom, thinking, where on earth have I come? I went along to lectures, and honestly, it just seemed like everyone knew about farming apart from me. And I'd grown up on a farm, and they just seemed to know so much more. And inside, I was just thinking, I don't fit here. I don't fit here. And near the end of term, so what I would tend to do is I would tend just to stay quiet, and I went right in on myself. I kind of hid, in a sense, throughout my time. Near the end of the first term, my course group had an awards event, and it was picking up on some of the funny things that had happened, that people had done throughout that first term, people who had got drunk and done some crazy things, people who had smashed their cars up in car parks, people who had climbed onto the roof of Writtle Agricultural College to put a certain flag up, and all of that. And I was sitting thinking, I wonder what they're going to say about me. And I won the BOF award, the boring old fart, because they could not find one funny story about me. I hated it. Honestly, during that whole term that I managed to survive there, I was lost. I didn't know who I was, and I certainly didn't feel that I fitted there. And I couldn't wait for the weekend to come when on the Friday evening I could jump into my Mini and go back home again. A children's book author, should I say, a lady called Phoebe Stone said this. She said this, that not belonging is a terrible feeling. It feels awkward and it hurts, as if you're wearing someone else's shoes. And that was me at college. But being home, when I got home, it was so different. Because home was a safe place. Home was where I could just be myself. I didn't have to pretend anything. Home was where I felt welcomed, where I felt accepted, where I knew that I was loved. Home was where I belonged. Now, the idea of being lost and then finding home is something which I hear on various occasions here at the Forge. I get the chance to talk to many people when they first come, and the word home is very often mentioned. So when Carol Ann and Tina, just sitting down here, when they first came to the Forge, they'd written a little message to a friend that said, and it feels like we've come home. And that was so good because the next week they bought biscuits. Because that's what you do when you're at home, don't you? You just kind of muck in, and that's exactly what they did. They bought biscuits in week 2. Sonia Carpenter, who she has recently done the Alpha course, and she said the same thing about coming to the Forge for the first time last autumn. She said it felt like I'd come home. I met up with Alfie Witcher, who travels all the way from Honington to be here on a Sunday. And when I met with him in Bury St Edmunds just a couple of months ago, he said exactly the same, that he said it felt like I've found home. And every time I hear it, honestly, it does my heart good. Why? Well, because home is a safe place. Because home is a place where we can belong and feel accepted and feel loved. And, well, home is where we can be ourselves and feel welcomed. And why I'm so excited when I hear anything like that being said, it's because it fits so well with the vision that we have as a church. The Forge's vision is this. It's to be a church community that unchurched people, or people that are not used to going to church, or maybe used to go to church and then stopped going and are thinking, dare I kind of make my way back again? To be a church community that unchurched people love to be part of. In other words, you don't have to believe everything before you can belong. In fact, you can belong before you believe. Let me share with you David and Claire's story. Take a watch.
Hello, I'm Claire. I'm married to David. We have 3 children, Laura, Ella and Joshua, and I'm a specialist learning support worker.
I'm David. I'm lucky enough to be married to Claire, and I work for Pizza Express as a project manager. So our friends Leanne and Jason come to the Forge, and I know that they were, Leanne particularly, who worked with Claire, spoke a little bit about the Forge, and it sort of really intrigued us. And I think we'd sort of built up a bit of a family tradition that normally at Christmas we would go to our local church, I think as many families do. And our first experience of the Forge was Christmas 23 now. And to be honest, it was just incredibly different from anything else we'd ever been to. I think right from the moment when you get to the car park and there's people out there welcoming you, generally they're not car park marshals, they're there to say hello, all the way through to the front door. And of course the experience of actually being there for the Christmas show, and it's not a show, I know, but that Christmas experience was really, really important, and I think it really was a great introduction to the Church of the Forge. So we really enjoyed the Christmas moment, and definitely sort of left that night. And I remember us driving home thinking that we would definitely want to sort of come to the regular Sunday morning sessions. And I think for me, the timing of when we started coming to the Forge also sort of coincided with, probably for the first time in a while, we'd had a bit of a difficult year. I think 2023 was probably quite a difficult year for us, lots of job changes for me, and that was quite an unsettling period of time. So, you know, late 2023, early 2024, I was sort of tackling a new job, and I hadn't had to do that for quite some time. So definitely I found that the Sundays, as well as being, you know, really welcoming, you know, listening to, you know, some really great, I guess, talks on the stage, but also sitting next to people that were like me, like Claire, was really sort of warming. And I often found that the Sunday morning sessions tended to help sort of center me for the week. I found a lot of parallels between what was being said on stage to, I guess, just being a decent person to, you know, to work with, to work for. And it really helped sort of almost set me up for the week, is the way I found Sunday mornings.
I was really taken with how friendly people were when we first went in. I liked the fact that it was just so different. It's dark with like loud music and the spotlights. The people who speak on the stage are normal humans. They're not like preachy, which I've experienced in the past in other churches. It had just, the topics that were spoke about had real connection to things that were going on in like my life and everyone's life, and it sort of then dips into, actually Jesus did this as well, so it sort of like brings it both in together. So I suppose the reason why we keep coming is because we really enjoy it. So I wanted to find out more about what it means to sort of follow Jesus. So we was offered to go to the Alpha course. They came as well. And it was really lovely. We got to chat with some other people that perhaps we wouldn't have spoken to normally. It was a really open sessions where we would just sort of watch a bit of a talk by somebody, and then we were able to chat about what it meant for us. I generally had most of the questions I can remember, but no, it was really good. And actually, from that experience, this year I'm challenging myself to do the Nicky Gumbel, does it 365 days something or other read. So yes, I'm doing that. I've been lucky enough to meet some other friends. So myself, Leanne, Claire and Lisa have been out on a girls' night a couple of times, and we'll hopefully have one booked soon. We've also had them round ours for dinner, and I think we're going out to the Walshes for something to eat in a couple of weeks' time, aren't we?
Looking forward to that.
So they're all sort of friendships that we wouldn't have made if we hadn't have been at the Forge.
Yeah. I think the whole experience, I think the way it's connected from the welcome, as I've said previously, in the car park, to the welcome in the lobby, to the hot drinks available, the occasional bacon sandwich, and croissants. I think the way it all comes together, and I think, I really appreciate the effort that goes into putting it all together. But I think that increasing feeling of being part of something bigger, I think just helps you belong. And there've been a few moments whereby we've not been able to come just because life's got in the way. And actually both of us have said in our own way at some point during the week, we've missed not going on Sunday, and we increasingly look forward to the next Sunday. And I think that would only be possible if it was about the fact that we were feeling quite connected to what we're hearing and what we were becoming part of, and I think have a desire to become a bigger part of in the future, really, to really start contributing in other ways as well. Yeah.
Fantastic, absolutely, yeah, thank you. I'm really grateful to David and Claire just for sharing that, because they're on a journey, and they're still trying to discover who this Jesus is and what it might mean to follow him. But what I'm so pleased about is that for the two of you, you've found a safe place to be able to do that and to explore and ask questions and find out without pressure. And for me, that is so good. And can I just speak to those of you who are kind of regularly part of the Forge here, who serve, who welcome, who look out for new people, who offer hospitality. The Walshes obviously do a really good meal, so it's worth staying friends with them, isn't it? Through that. I just want to say thank you, because what you do is you create the environment for people like David and Claire to start coming new to church, not sure what to expect, and yet find a home here. And so thank you. Please keep going what you're doing, because it really does make a difference. It doesn't just happen with adults, it happens with young people too. Tim and Becky Warnock, Becky who's hosting today, and husband Tim, who oversees our youth work here. He's our youth director. They run an after-school club across the car park there for kids who would normally go home to an empty house and have to sort their own tea. On a Monday, they can go to the family hub, and there are games, activities. They can stay there till about 6 o'clock, and they're provided a meal. And one of the girls who started attending that spoke to Tim one day and said, I'd quite like to come to your church. And so she came to Transit, which is our kind of 10s to 14s group that meets on a Sunday morning. And then when she heard about the week away at Sizewell that they've just done over this half term, she and a friend signed up for it. And on the Wednesday evening, I remember the team talking about this, that there were these two girls on the front row as Mr. Ben Lasky was leading worship on their worship night there. And these girls didn't just sit on the front row and observe. They fully participated, they sang, and at times they were just in tears as the whole experience and of what God was obviously at work in their lives. So listen, if you haven't got life sorted yet, please know you're welcome here. If you don't really get all of this Jesus bit at the moment, and you kind of, you're trying to find your way, and you might sit there thinking, I don't know anything compared with the rest of the people around me. You are so welcome here. If you have messed up in life and you don't feel good enough, honestly, you are so welcome here. You are so welcome here. Because you see, what we want to do as a church is to reflect the character and nature of Jesus. And it's really interesting looking at how Jesus worked with people, especially who we would call the disciples, the 12 men that spent 3 years with him. Because did they know who Jesus really was? And did they understand all that was going on? Absolutely, they did not. No, they were intrigued by Jesus. There was something about him which they were drawn to. And they were so welcomed by him. And so we read really early on about a man called Simon Peter. And Matthew, one of the disciples, records it in this way. He says, one day as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, also called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. And Jesus called out to them, come follow me, and I'll show you how to fish for people. And they left their nets at once and followed him. So there were two guys who decided to explore and choosing to follow Jesus. But did Peter believe that Jesus was God coming to earth? No, of course he didn't. He didn't understand very much at all, but it was a great starting point. So he belonged to this inner group of Jesus' followers, even though he wasn't really sure who Jesus was or what that meant. And then a little while later, in fact, probably about 2 years later, Jesus was with his friends. And he said, who are people saying that I am? And they came out with all these kind of different names. And then he made it personal. And so he said to his disciples, who do you think that I am then? So this is 2 years into spending time with him, and they're still a bit confused as to who he is. And he goes on to say this. And then he asked them, but who do you say that I am? And Simon Peter, the one who was called, who didn't really understand all that was going on, said, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus replied, you're blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You didn't learn this from any human being. And so Peter began to start to understand over a period of time of belonging to this group, of understanding who Jesus was. So was that the end of it? Was it all sorted? Of course it wasn't. Because Peter later on went to deny even knowing Jesus. He was then reinstated by Jesus, which just goes to show that if we blow it, God doesn't give up on us. And so Peter then was filled with the Holy Spirit, and we have what's known as the day of Pentecost, when he stood in front of thousands of people and declared who Jesus was. And in fact, we meet as a church partly because of Peter and the work that he did in communicating who Jesus was to the known world then. So do you see this journey that he was on? It's not you come, believe, and then you can work out the rest. No. You can come confused. You can come with questions. So why is it that we want, here at the Forge, why is it that we want people to belong even before they believe? Well, the reason is because we have this vision to be a church community that unchurched people love to be part of. But we also have a mission, a purpose, a big why behind why we exist, why we meet as a church. And it's this: our mission is to help people find and follow Jesus. In other words, our heart ultimately is to help people to discover a relationship with Jesus so that they can belong to not just a church, but they can belong to the family of God. To know God's love and his forgiveness and his peace and his guidance and his purpose for our lives. And how can we best do that? Well, if you have to believe before you belong, to be honest, we can't have influence until you've chosen to believe. So therefore, we want people to belong first of all, because that way we can journey with people as they're exploring faith. So we want to help people to find and to follow Jesus. Last year, we saw a number of people discovering who Jesus is. From coming to their first Sunday with us, going through Alpha and experiencing a relationship with God. So to see people like Anne Crow, if you haven't met Anne Crow, you haven't been here. Okay, she is a very, very loud lady. Where are you, Anne? Are you here? Oh, she's in kids, isn't she? Okay, that's fine. I can say what I like then, can't I? No, not really. Not really. Jenny Dewars, Jackie James, Wayne and Sam Wilshire, all on a journey of not just discovering who Jesus is, but having a relationship with him. And that's changed their attitudes, their actions, their whole approach to life. I tell you, it is so exciting to be able to see this happening in people's lives. And to follow as well, to follow Jesus. Others have taken big steps forward over this past year. Some of those taking on leadership roles and leadership of groups. So Lois and Ria are leading the young adults group absolutely brilliantly. And it's faith stretching, but it is so exciting to see what's happening. To have Lois, I've seen Lois somewhere. Where are you, Lois? Lois is just over there. That's right. To have Lois as an elder now is brilliant. Some of you have connected into groups for the first time, and so you're starting to build relationships. That's so important. Others of you have started serving, either here at church or in your local community. It takes a brave move to get involved. It really does. Others of you have started new habits. I mean, Claire, what you were saying, Nicky Gumbel is actually a DJ on the radio, but Nicky Gumbel is who you meant, wasn't it? That's right. But to commit to doing a reading every single day to go through the Bible is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. They are big steps forward. Now, we often repeat this phrase, we're here to help people to find and follow Jesus. We keep on saying it, not just so that it becomes parrot fashion, because if it's not repeated, it gets deleted. It does. We forget about it, and we forget about why we do what we do, which is my job and the staff team job to keep on reminding us this is why we're here, to help people on their journey of finding and following Jesus. So this last year has been really good. We've seen more people attending. We've seen more baptisms. We've seen more people doing Alpha, more people finding Jesus, more kids attending our kids' holiday club, more families being helped in the community, more people reached through social media. Just the stats up there of 40,000, just over 40,500 accounts reached through the Facebook page. And it is just extraordinary. Just extraordinary. So lots of good things have happened over this past year, and I'm so looking forward to what's going to happen over this coming year. So what's in store for us? Well, looking out at the moment, there aren't many spare seats. We've got 250 seats, 251 seats. I counted them before the service. 251 seats laid out. And so we must be about 210, 220 people here today. The stats show that when a church gets 80% full, it stops growing. Because when people arrive and they can't find a chair, and if they're coming with their family and they're looking around and they can't sit together because there aren't a group of chairs free, people kind of think, maybe I won't go next week. And what happens is that it becomes a ceiling. And I don't want that, and I'm sure you don't want that either. And so what we're looking to do from Easter onwards is to go to 2 services on a Sunday morning. One meeting at 9 o'clock, the other meeting at 11 o'clock. And already in your head, some of you are thinking, I go to the 9, I got the rest of the day free. Some of you are thinking, I go to the 11, I'm going to have croissants beforehand. And I know. But what we're going to do is for our kids and youth work, that is going to be at the 11 o'clock service. So if you have kids or young people that are part of any of our kids or youth work, then come to the 11 o'clock. If you don't, then I would encourage you to come to the 9 o'clock. And the services will be the same. This is something that we've done before. But what this will do, it will enable us to continue to grow, and it creates these spaces for people to keep coming, which means that you can keep inviting. You can keep inviting, and so that others can find a home here. Another thing which we're looking to do this year is some hardship fundraising. Every year, we look to give away about £10,000 or more to families in need, whether it's buying ovens, paying for fuels, paying rent, or whatever, whenever a family gets into difficulties. And what we've discovered, it's very hard to get some grant money for anything just for the church. Why would a community out there want to support us as a church? They don't. But what the community out there is happy to do is to support families in need. And so what we're looking to do is to do a number of events over this year to be able to look to raise some money. So it's not your money, it will be your friend's money, your neighbour's money, and being able to say, look, this is going towards a hardship fund. So we've got some events which will be happening this year. Thirdly, we want to be able to have a permanent presence here in Debenham. It's always been the case that if someone comes on a Sunday morning, they can find the Forge. If they come Sunday afternoon, where do they find us? If they come Tuesday, where do they find us? The only place they can find us is online. And so what we want to be able to do is to have a permanent presence here. And so we are selling the old chapel, which is where our offices are at Forward Green in Stonham, and looking to get some planning permission for 2 houses on that plot so that we can sell that, so that we can then have a presence here in Debenham. And so we are talking with Suffolk County Council about the family hub over there. We're talking to the community centre and leisure centre here about whether we could put some mobile buildings here on the site. But we want to be able to have a presence here so that on a Tuesday, if someone wants to come and meet someone at the Forge, well, they can come to the Forge. We are also in desperate need for a new kids director, with Emily leaving and Kat stepping in. She is doing a brilliant job, Kat Lasky, for January, February and March, but she finishes, and therefore from April onwards we don't have a kids director. And so I just want to ask for your help in 2 ways. If you know of anyone who has a faith in Jesus and is great with kids, would you try and convince them to apply? And but also, would you pray? Would you pray that God brings the right person? You know, we're looking for someone who has a good character, someone who has some competency in kids' work, someone who has the chemistry that will fit with our team, and who also gets the culture of our church. This is our vision series, The Art of Belonging, and we always like to link vision with our giving month. And the Forge is a self-funded church. It doesn't get money from a denomination or other sources. And so everything that happens is all because of the generosity of people here at the Forge. So we've been able to exist for 32 years and be able to do all that we do because of your generosity. So if you've given a one-off gift this last year, can I just say thank you? That has made such a difference. If you've given on a regular basis or percentage, thank you for that. But each year we look to pull together a budget and we work hard at trying to keep our costs as low as possible. And then we look at what do we think will come in from our regular givers and one-off gifts. And then we try to pull together a budget. An expenditure budget and an income budget. So just on the screen very quickly. And at this point, can I ask our welcome team, please, to be handing out the leaflets? That would be great. So you can take these away. Our projected expenditure for this coming year is £345,891. And that includes staff, resources, material, venue hire, and it goes towards our next generation, adult Sundays, supporting our local communities, online and pastoral work. And this year, our projected income is shorter than that. It's £317,091. And that's based on regular giving and one-off gifts and gift aid and things like that. But that leaves a shortfall of £28,000, which is our giving month target for 2025. So if you can give a one-off gift, all of that gift will go towards us reaching the target of £28,000. If you start giving regularly, if you started this month and you looked to give through to the end of the year, all of that money will go towards our gift day target. If you increase your giving in the same way. And I worked it out because I'm really clever. Okay, if 100 people gave £280 between now and December, we'd hit our target, which is £7 a week or £28 a month from March through until December. And for some of you, that's way too much, and I understand that. But giving £8 a month or giving £10 a month still makes a huge difference. And for some of you who perhaps are a bit better off, to give £28 a month, that's easy. And maybe you want to give much more because you're invested in the life of the church and you want to see these things happen. So please, I want to ask you to consider over this next couple of weeks, take this flyer away with you. Don't leave it on the chair, okay? Take it with you. And just have a look to say, what part can I play towards us reaching this £28,800 that we need to raise for this year, over and above perhaps what we already give. Our lives are to reflect who God is. And God is a generous God who has given you and I so much, which is why he calls us to be generous too. And in the same way, God, who is so welcoming, calls us to be a welcoming community. Whether people believe or not, they can be part of the Forge in order to go on a journey of discovering who Jesus is. So therefore, we haven't got to pretend because you've come home. So you can come as you are.